I agree.
Sometimes
there you go.
doing the right thing.
So, calling this meeting to order. It's Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. It's 9 a.m. We're in the Mounds View City Hall Council Chambers. Let the record reflect that all the managers except Steve Wadman with prior notification are present. And, okay, should we set the agenda? No, we do that even after the open mic. Okay, so the next thing up is the open mic. Any Ramsey County resident may address the board in his or her individual capacity for up to 3 minutes. On any matter not on the agenda, speakers are requested to come to the podium, state their name and address for the record. Additional comments may be solicited and accepted in writing. Generally, the Board of Managers will not take official action on items discussed at this time, but may refer the matter to staff for a future report or direct that the matter be scheduled on an upcoming agenda.
Mr. President,
Sir.
maybe my hearing was wrong. Did I hear you say Ramsey County and not Rice Creek Watershed?
Well, I'm capable of doing that, but it would
It may be my
obviously-
hearing, sir.
No, I thought it probably, it would be
Just
Rice
a-
Creek.
Yes.
So I was trying to be good and not say RCWD.
I see.
May I
Welcome.
give you a copy to follow along?
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Morning.
If you're short a copy, she and I can share. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Decker, 614 Pine Street. I live near 102232 Main Trunk and Branch 4. I've watched this district fail to protect my neighbors, our properties, and the basic function of the watershed. At your last workshop, you questioned whether your primary responsibility is drainage or water quality. You are not the Rice Creek Water Quality District. You are the Watershed District, and you're failing at drainage. My neighbors have suffered real consequences from your decisions: repeated flooding, property damage, and lost income. A local farm has lost clients because upstream culverts were repeatedly lowered, but the downstream city hasn't been required to lower or upsize its culverts. The result is predictable: more water, no path out, flooding sanctioned by Rice Creek Watershed. Meanwhile, your budget for restoration projects is more than double what it should be, and the ditch and creek maintenance is less than half of what is needed. I asked ChatGPT how a watershed district would know it was meeting its obligations. 1, a district spending 5 to 10% on ditch maintenance in a rapidly developing area is certainly underperforming. 2, if the same residents or farms report flooding year after year, the district is neglecting its obligations. 3, if water is routinely overtopping ditch banks or flooding lowlands, it's evidence of failure, and it's all happening. At the same time, you've funded 3 projects on Bald Eagle Lake, the same lake where the board president owns lakeshore property, while most other lakes get 0 projects. And this body is about to approve a passion project of another member, which will dry out his family's lands. Votes from members who stand to financially benefit looks like self-dealing and is unethical. I know what your lawyer, paid with my tax money, says. I wonder what a jury would say. This district has over 55 water bodies. If you can't fairly distribute resources or follow basic ethical standards, you don't deserve public trust or public dollars. Stop playing wetland credits games. Stop the ridiculous and inept research distractions. Stop funding optics while real people really flood. Fix the infrastructure, maintain the ditches, coordinate culverts across cities, start downstream, and stop asking for more tax money until you've proved you can deliver the basics. Shed the water. That's your job. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Christopher Stowe, 426. I'm on the Columbus border, but I live in Lino. I left my lake home in Wisconsin on Monday morning to attend the July 7th workshop. I found out that Brown's Wetlands Preserve is a mess. I had a misunderstanding that wetlands credits were created by creating wetlands, but you bought Brown's from the DNR as an existing wetland, not to protect and preserve nature, but out of your need to maintain credits for your lost lawsuit involving Rick Wilder. Now you're in a pinch because you need additional credits to lower culverts north of West Pine Street, and you're asking Houston Engineering, our in-house firm, to basically do what they did before and fudge the numbers like they did on West Pine Street twice to end up with 0 needed. How can you just purchase it to use as a bank account? I was under the understanding you need to create wetlands in order to bank wetlands credits. Your ridiculous budget has all kinds of things that shouldn't be a priority or even paid for by you. And is going up $3 million, which is over 25%, and is based on your actions and your budget. Your primary objective isn't Watershed, but it should be. Instead, you've been wasting money on doing things like a 2-year study on what leaves do sitting in a road. And you actually had a discussion on buying equipment the cities in your area are responsible for, while you're short on cash. I asked Google how many lakes are in RCWD, 55. I go on your website, and as of Monday, I looked up the project, and there was 26. 3 are for one lake, your lake, Mr. President. Why such a disproportionate amount for one lake? Oh, I know, because it's on your lake, and it saves your lake association money, because I have a property in Wisconsin on a lake, Beaver Dam Lake, that address issues like water quality, stocking the lake with fish, buying fireworks, etc. These are not the watershed's responsibility. I don't feel it was legal or ethical for the president to vote on and push for projects on a lake he lives on and financially benefits from. All the while, I'm being flooded out. All 3 commissioners should be made aware of potential ethics violations that have been found and are committed by these members. I've been letting you know about my flooding issues for years. You ignore my valid concerns while you enable yourselves, the city of Columbus, and individual managers to vote on what they should when they should recuse and continue to flood me out. Furthermore, some of the members on this board said things like the elevation of a culvert doesn't matter, just the size. It does matter. Me having to explain this at the meeting is alarming and shows complete incompetence. Placing a culvert at the bottom of the ditch creates more protection in a flood event. Placing it higher saturates what could be dry and soak up water in the time of need. You need to lower and upsize the culverts downstream before you change culverts upstream, like what you have been doing. You are doing things that you said would make that wouldn't affect me, and they made my problems worse. I'm a licensed plumber. I know how drainage is supposed to work, and I know you're not making it work. There are people on this board who shouldn't be on this board, like the treasurer, who actually was pleased to miss the budget review at the workshop on Monday. Lastly, how dare you ask for more tax money? Cut the pet projects and studies and do your jobs and ensure the water is shedding, especially with future growth that will increase demands of an overtaxed, under-maintained, and poorly designed system that you combined. You took 10, you combined it with 22, you combined it with 32, you send the water uphill my way, you're draining Columbus, then you blame the ditch on Columbus. 7 culverts you lowered north of me. The one you lowered twice. It's been lowered over 2 feet. Do I need to call in the Farm Bureau on you guys? You don't want the feds getting involved in this. You think you're broke now, you're gonna need a new lawyer, and I guarantee you're gonna need a new engineering company, because this guy right here, he's basically your in-house engineer. He does whatever you want. Telling me on West Pine Street, lowering that culvert's net, you don't have to buy any wetlands credits now? Really? Let's do some math. I'll take pictures of it, I got it. Thanks. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit passionate because I've been flooded out the entire time I've been on my property. Let's spend more money on sucker trucks.
Any changes in the agenda?
Yes, President Bradley, Board of Managers, at Monday's workshop discussion, you had a majority consensus not to act on ACD 102232. So you were going to remove that from the agenda.
Very good.
There's no other proposed changes.
Does anyone else have any proposed changes to the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to set the agenda?
So move.
I'll second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Patrick, I believe you're up.
Oh, do you want me to make a
Oh,
motion?
oh,
quick to
please,
approve
yes,
those
minutes, yes.
Perfect. Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the minutes from the June 23rd, 2025 regular meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we come to Patrick.
Yes, Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, staff have 3 applications for your consideration today. Happy to answer any questions on those.
Any questions of Patrick?
Patrick, Mr. Chair, I have a question about the, what number is this? The last one, is that 063?
Yes.
Yes. Is this a new area in our watershed? Is this, no?
No,
No,
this
this
isn't.
wasn't part of the realignment.
Correct, it's been in the district.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? If not, can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and move that we cap-rock the following permits: 23-059, 25-052, and 25-063.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes. All right, that, I believe takes us to passing the next item,
Yes,
Silver Lake Carp Management Contract?
that is correct. With the amendment to the agenda, this item is found on page 91 of your packet, and Matt Koshin is here to speak to the matter.
To the board, give me 1 second, I'm gonna get a presentation up for you. There we go. Come on, there we go, all right. All right, all set. Thank you, members of the board, for having me this morning. Here to talk about Silver Lake and some proposed carp management to do on Silver Lake. I have a short presentation to share with you about some background on Silver Lake, kind of how we got to where we are. Also, I think it's a little bit of an interesting story about how we do some diagnostic work that leads to potential carp management. So I'll go through some of the Silver Lake water quality issues and the diagnostic work that we've done, some of the past work that we've done with carp management on Silver Lake, because we have done some, and what I'm proposing for the future. We do have a proposal from WSB to do this carp work, so at the end of the presentation I am seeking a motion to approve that. So I'll get off and running here. The problem is this, and of course we've seen this before, this is Silver Lake. Now the picture in the upper left-hand corner, you might call kind of a typical summer condition for Silver Lake, moderate algae blooms, but there is the potential on Silver Lake for some more severe algae blooms, which is what we kind of see on the right and the lower part of that picture there. So Silver Lake is listed as impaired for excess nutrients. Algae blooms like this are fairly common. Like so many of our lakes, some of the early diagnostic work here was a TMDL study, a total maximum daily load study. And among other things, this study looks at identifying the sources and the magnitude of the pollution loading, where is it coming from, and what can we do about it. So this was approved way back in 2010, so it's getting a little bit older now. But they did some really nice diagnostic work looking at watershed loading into Silver Lake. Found that we really needed only moderate reductions in phosphorus loading from the watershed in order to meet water quality goals in Silver Lake. Something like a 17% reduction in phosphorus loading. Compare that to some other lakes in the watershed where it's 30, 40, 50% or more. So this seemed relatively achievable. And there were a number of really great projects that were done in the watershed following this, many of them sponsored by the district along with local partners like the City of St. Anthony, City of Columbia Heights, Three Rivers Park District. This was a really great follow-up the actions that followed the TMDL here were a really great example of how this is supposed to work. A lot of really great cooperation. This is an example of a project at Salo Ponds in St. Anthony. This is actually an alum dosing facility in a small pond that was part of a development. The developers loved it because the pond looks nice. The watershed loves it because the water that's leaving the pond is very low in phosphorus. Of course, then that drains out into Silver Lake. A couple of other projects. These were also sponsored by the district as part of our stormwater management grant. The Silver Lake boat launch stormwater treatment project, Silver Lake beach improvements. Those are both in the City of Columbia Heights. So a lot of really great cooperative work was done to address watershed loading for Silver Lake. And what we saw when we totaled up all the numbers is that we're actually exceeding our TMDL goals here. We were looking for a reduction of about 40 pounds per year in phosphorus. And actually this number, 58, that's a little bit outdated now. That's probably closer to 60. So we're almost 50% above what our goal was. So we're kind of patting ourselves on the back here saying we're doing a great job cutting down this phosphorus loading in Silver Lake. But what we saw here, and bear with me, this graph can get a bit messy, but it is the data. Following the TMDL and the watershed projects, phosphorus did decline, and for the most part we were meeting state standards for phosphorus, and yet the algae blooms persisted. Typically when you reduce phosphorus, algae steps down with it, but not always. So this kind of left us scratching our heads a little bit. Of course, this is a while ago now, just as the U of M was starting to do their research on carp management. The next clue that pointed us towards the possibility of carp management was a plant survey. We've talked about plant surveys in the past. What we're looking at here is a map of Silver Lake. You can see the bathymetry, or the lake depth, overlain there. You can see most of the lake is very shallow, less than 5 feet. There is one very deep hole of about 45 feet, but the majority of the lake is less than 5 feet. And yet, when we did a plant survey, which is what you see here, all of those red dots indicate no plants. So a healthy lake should have plants growing in those shallow waters, and those plants help suck up the nutrients, they help stabilize the sediments, they help reinforce a clear water state. That's not what we had in Silver Lake. Dig a little bit deeper into some of the fisheries data, and all of these arrows started pointing toward the possibility of carp being an issue in Silver Lake. So this is all past diagnostic work that we've done. This led to us doing some what I would call investigative or exploratory carp management work. So the idea early on here was to work with some partners around the lake, try and do some removals, and then monitor how the lake would respond to those removals. So this is right around 2014, 2015, so almost 10 years ago now. But we did work with the commercial fishermen. We were able to remove a fair number of carp from Silver Lake, a fair number of adult carp. And what we saw here, I think you've seen graphs like this before when I've talked about carp management. We had our pre-project density and our post-project density. And what we did here was we pushed the carp population down below that density threshold. And what we saw in Silver Lake was a really nice response. Clarity the next 2 years was better, quite a bit better actually. Here's some photos of Silver Lake in the years following that carp management. And what we saw in the data set backed that up. Phosphorus numbers stayed about the same, just kind of barely meeting state standards, but chlorophyll A, or algae, dropped quite a bit. So kind of a summary of past carp management here. The past removals showed that managing common carp would improve water quality on Silver Lake. But this wasn't a long-term plan. This wasn't following some of the new principles that came out of the U of M. This was kind of that investigative, or we're testing out carp management here. Importantly, residents were a little bit unhappy with the results of the lake because all of those shallow areas with the clear water, there was a lot of plants growing, and there was some conflict there, right? So since then, since that exploratory work, we haven't followed through with additional comprehensive carp management planning on Silver Lake. And not surprisingly, the carp population now, indications are that it has rebounded and algae blooms are back. So what are we looking at now for the future? We've had a lot of conversations with lake residents over the past years. There's some new lake residents on the lake that are really pushing for this now. Residents have come to us saying, we're concerned about these algae blooms, we want action. We're saying, yeah, we think that action is carp management. It's shown to work in the past. So now they're kind of steering the ship a little bit here, the residents are. They are asking for carp management, they want it. We're also working with them proactively to talk about responsible management of native plants. There are rules out there for that set by the DNR, but we can help them through that process of responsible and legal management, even of native lake plants. So what we're proposing now with this next work is to get back to these principles. This was a slide that was put together by Peter Sorensen of the U of M a number of years ago, basically applying a principle that was developed for agriculture, the Integrated Pest Management Program, and applying it to carp management. So in the past, what we did on Silver Lake was really, it was exploratory again, but we were really just focused on mortality or removing fish from the system, right? Not really thinking about immigration and emigration, or carp coming in and out, or probably more importantly, where are carp spawning, where are carp recruiting, can we limit them from accessing that habitat? This is the model that we've used for the Long Lake Lino Chain of Lake system, and really anybody in Minnesota that's doing serious carp work now is following this integrated pest management model. That is what we're proposing to do with this WSB contract. So the work that we're proposing kind of gets the ball rolling using that model. We're redoing some population estimates. We would be investigating spawning and recruitment areas. We would be doing some carp aging to look at the population structure that tells us how often they're successful in reproducing and recruiting. Tracking Some removal, although probably more of the removals would come later, and even a temporary barrier installation. So that is what we're looking at for the future. In the packet, there is the memo. I believe that's on starting on page 91, I believe. But the proposal from WSB is also in there, if you've had a chance to look at that. The proposed cost, including the two options, is $46,029. This amount is covered by the existing and approved Rice Creek carp management budget this year, 2025. So the proposed motion is on page 92, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do you have any questions?
Mr. President, this has been a long-term, there's nothing wrong with looking at things at 10 years ago. It's a continuous program that's necessary, as I call it, managing erosion control below the water level. And I was just wondering, this program's going to be able to tell us then where these carp are migrating, so we'll set up maybe possibly in the future another electronic corral system during the migration periods.
Manager Waller, yes, the proposed agreement here would look at carp movement into other water bodies. The Silver Lake system is a lot simpler than the Long Lake Llano Chain of Lakes system. Long Lake Llano Chain of Lakes is an incredibly complex system with many ins and outs and connections. Silver Lake, there's really only a connection to a few stormwater ponds. So the solution there is probably a lot lower tech. Probably more like a physical barrier instead of electronic barrier. That's what we're looking at right now.
And then, is there any possibility that the Department of Natural Resources could stock Silver Lake with, what is that? I've forgotten which fish it is. Some kind of crappie, I thought it was.
Bluegills, I think.
Bluegills? That
Yep.
eat the eggs of the carp?
Yes, Manager Waller, Manager Bradley, yes. Bluegill and crappie, really any panfish species. In fact, they did stock fish in there a couple of years ago after a partial or almost a full winter kill in Silver Lake, so they have done that. I think they would do that again in the future if they deem it necessary.
Well, it seems to me for carp control, that's kind of like I won't call it annual event, but maybe it's more just not a once and run, but rather something that's on a 5-year schedule or something like that, because the same thing is true with our carp management. We have to do that on an annual basis. And so if we could encourage them, Matthew, please do.
Yeah.
So other than that, I'm glad to see we're continuing to work on this project after 10 years, because I don't like the idea of just a one-run approach to it. I want a management approach. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I mean, maybe just a comment, just every time you present, it's so fascinating to me. This lake seems peculiar just because it's so stinking shallow. So I wonder where all these fish are hanging out other than that 140-foot hole. I mean, it's kind of just a weird thing. And I guess maybe that is a question. Does the depth of the lake, does it like fluctuate at all? Or is it just typically at 5 feet? And does that depth really impact your ability to like long-term manage, algae blooms or whatever else?
Yeah, Manager Robertson, the lake depth doesn't fluctuate a whole lot here. Of course, after really big rainstorms, it'll bounce up a bit, but the outlet has a lot of capacity, so I don't think they see it bounce too much. The shallowness of the lake does make it more difficult to manage. There's somebody in my field that said shallow lake management in an urban setting is not for the faint of heart. It's very difficult. And to Manager Waller's comment earlier, fish kill has been a problem there, and the shallowness of the lake contributes to that issue, then that can boost carp populations. There is now a new aerator that has been installed in the past couple of years on Silver Lake, and that'll help alleviate that issue, but yes, it is difficult.
Just one more really quick question or comment. I know it's a relatively smaller lake. Is with the engagement that you've had with residents, is there also dialogue about, reducing the use of, lawn care products and things like that? I mean, again, the lake being as shallow as it is, I'm assuming really any type of products that have chemicals in them are going to impact the water quality.
Yes, Manager Robertson, most definitely those conversations are happening. Luckily in Minnesota, most residential fertilizers don't contain phosphorus by law. Most of them, almost all of them contain nitrogen. That can boost algae blooms also. But I mentioned there were some new residents around the lake and perhaps some new leadership in their association, and they're actually driving that point
Very good.
pretty heavily
Good.
to reduce the use of residential chemicals and fertilizers.
And why not?
So, Mr. Chair, thank you. Half of this lake is part of the Silver Lake Park area, so,
Yes.
Three Rivers Park. The residents that you said are taking leadership, is there talk about establishing a lake association, or is there a loosely held network of folks?
Yeah,
around
Manager
the lake?
Wynett, there is a lake association. I don't know exactly how official it is or if they are a nonprofit, but they are organized. They have people set up in individual committees and things like that.
Yes.
All right. I've
Also,
lost
you
track.
need
We had the motion yet?
a motion.
Oh.
Mr. Chair, I would move to authorize the administrator to enter into professional service agreement with WSB Inc. for the amount not to exceed $46,029. The administrator is further authorized to approve contracts amendments for additional work not to exceed 10% of the contract costs.
John, would you care to second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
HEI Task Order 2025-015 Lake Johanna Outlet Structure Feasibility Study. Tom Schmidt.
Yes, Mr. President, Board of Managers, for your consideration is a task order for a feasibility study and removal and replacement of existing Lake Johanna outlet structure. Lake Johanna is in this, I guess it'd be southwest lake, Matt?
Yes.
Southwest part of the district. Excuse my direction. Lake Johanna has been subject to historic flooding problems, and the district built this structure in the late 70s to address these fluctuating lake levels. For context, RCD4 drains into Lake Johanna, and RCD4 drains all of Rosedale Mall, goes under Rosedale, and parts of Harmar Mall and Rosedale all drain through into this lake. And Lake Josephine also drains into Lake Johanna. So this lake is subject to a large drainage area. This structure is deteriorated to the point where it can no longer be repaired. So we've asked Houston to present us with some options in replacing it. And I don't know, Chris, do you have anything to add?
No, I'll just note that, as Tom indicated, the structure is in very bad condition.
Yes,
It
it
just
is.
simply can't be repaired. It's in a bad enough condition that we had talks with the Ramsey County Parks about it to make sure that they've closed it off for protection of the public and that sort of thing. So it will take a little while to get this structure replaced, but we'll be as diligent as possible to keep this moving forward to try to aim to get planning done so it could be done potentially next summer then.
And I did check yesterday and it's still roped off. But there was somebody on there fishing, climbed under the rope apparently. But beyond saying caution, can't really put cement barrier on it. But that fishing pier was not really part of the original plan. We had to put a cap on top of the inlet, and then we had a railing. I think the design was for a railing for safety when accessing the integrated control structure inside the box culvert. And it's just turned into a fishing pier over the years. We did have a meeting with Ramsey County Parks, and they're fine with separating the fishing pier function from the structure going forward, since it's not out in the lake far enough to effectively be a fishing structure, so. With that, staff does recommend approval of the task order, and I included a proposed motion on page 98 for your consideration. Does there any further questions?
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve task order 2025-015, Lake Johanna Outlet Structure Feasibility Study not to exceed $13,000, and further authorize the district administrator to sign the task order based on these incredible pictures of the disrepair and obviously our responsibility for it as one of the structures we have.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I'd point out that today I brought for a little later on, but in the overall plan of 1974, Lake Johanna and Lake Josephine and White Bear Lake are the three primary concerns at the time. Flood control is the main issue, and so this structure is a long-term responsibility of the district and needs to be taken care of, and actually we're a little tardy on it by the looks of the photographs. So with that, I'd support the motion, Mr.
All right.
President.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I guess that takes us to check register.
Guess I get to do this again. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the check register dated June 24th through July 9th, 2025, in the amount of $185,611.14.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll second the motion, just so you can open the floor for dialogue if there is any.
Is there any, thank you for that. Any dialogue, any questions, concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. District engineers report. Any questions of Chris? Chris, do you have anything you want to tell us?
Mr. President, I don't have anything specific, but certainly can address any questions.
Then that takes us to administrators' updates.
Yes, thank you, President Bradley. Board of Managers, just a couple of quick items. I'll let you know that Oasis and White Bear Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter are up and running, so we're happy about that. Work is coming to a conclusion out at Hanson Park. Hoping to finish that up on Friday, and things will be up and running. I'll just remind you of, we looked at the public hearing date for Anoka County Ditch 5362, Branch 5 and 6. We said August 13th at your regular board meeting. Make note that we had some dialogue with Bowser regarding that water quality and storage grant that they applied. I told you they had removed. Now we're back to being eligible. So got some clarification, so we'll look to secure that funding with them for the storage project on Hardwood Creek Watershed. And last night I participated at the City of Centerville. They're empowering small Minnesota communities. It's a cooperative effort with the University of Minnesota. They were selected as a candidate to look at their amenities and assets of the city and how they might move forward. Had a good reference to our work on JD3, Clearwater Creek, and our proposed project there, and to inform the city council of that at an upcoming meeting. And they are quite pleased with the work that has been done on Centerville Lake. So we'll give them an update on that as well. That's all I have.
Very good. Manager updates.
Can I ask?
Certainly.
Did you set the date for the July 30th for
Oh,
workshop?
good reminder.
Yeah.
Yes. Managers, you'll recall on Monday, we discussed a potential secondary workshop for the budget, and we have found that managers are available on July 30th.
Okay, so not the 14th.
Correct.
Okay.
30th, 9 a.m.
At the office.
at the Rice Creek office.
That's right.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm assuming a reminder or something. Usually you
Yeah.
guys update my calendar for me, so I can keep track of all of it, so thank
Yep,
you.
yep, certainly.
All right, John, you have anything to inform us on?
Well, two things, Mr. President. As I said at the Monday's meeting, the term in the budget restoration, seems to be not very clear because you have projects in there that, in my mind, belong in stream and lakes, and projects that belong in drainage ditches. And so I really don't know what that term restoration means. It's kind of a fuzzy word area. I've seen that other places in Washington County, that term often can mean things as restoration to conditions prior to settlement here, that being 1850, which is, just in my mind, a impossibility to do, and not for our area. And the second thing was I just brought along today, I'm not going to get into it much, but because
Are you gonna filibuster and read it line by line?
not today.
Okay.
Fortunately, there's lots of pictures in this, so you don't have to read.
Yeah, I didn't bring any snacks.
But this is the 1974 July preliminary, which became the Watershed District Management Plan, which the staff is very familiar with. And they have been recognized the logo. One of the things about this plan is that its emphasis on flood control and drainages. And it's interesting to look at the way it is. The plan isn't really that outdated, when you look at it, considered over 50 years ago. And for example, White Bear Lake takes up a lot of pages in this book as a problem. So drainage ditches in here are the responsibility of the district. It's quite clear on that. There's worries about chemicals in the lakes. For example, it mentions Marchand Lake has a salt problem. They're concerned about the amount of salt from the streets being used. This is 50-some years ago. The projections for use of land use hasn't really changed any, although for example, the number of people in the district have increased, the industrialization of it, things like that. So that's one of the things I found out here is that I try to stick here more to what the original intent was. This is an interesting book because they took the time to publish in the book a map of the district, but on the other side, all the public notices they held in order to create the district and the purposes for it. So you don't have to go to the newspaper to find the fine print. And flood control and protection and control is the #1 purpose that this district was founded for. And you don't get to the actual implementation of problems in the district till about chapter number 6. But flood control is the first problem they talk about. Drainage is the second one. And then you get into the water quality issues. Water quality is also an issue there long before. And when they talk about drainage here, it's not just the surface water drainage. They're talking about subsurface water. And that's an interesting idea that so early they were talking about it because they refer to the 1924 Ramsey County wells that were drilled on White Bear Lake that they pumped the water in. 25 feet of it, or 55 feet, I think, has been added to White Bear Lake over the years. 55 feet of water.
What would that?
And this is
That would have been, it was the size of Silver Lake before.
and this is well, that's the augmentation is what they're talking about that they pumped in. And remember, this is in 1974 or 2 or something we're talking about. That's 50 years ago and before that. So it's a long-term problem with, just for White Bear Lake, for example. But it also talks quite a bit in here about how much water the St. Paul Water Authority uses annually out of Centerville and Peltier, and basically out of the drainage system for Hardwood Creek and Rice Creek north of Peltier, and Clearwater Creek. And they make a note that Clearwater Creek begins in White Bear Lake at the outflow. It's just,
Matter of definitions, all.
well, but I mean, that's how things are defined. So I just brought that up because I think it's good for us to have a consistency of the purpose of what the district, even though there's new things that have been developed, such as the Wetland Conservation Act, and since this time of this plan, of course, was the public waters were inventoried and republished in differences. But to look at what it was and purposes of it, you know, and to make sure we haven't strayed from our mission that was originally the purpose of the district. So that, Mr. Chairman, I have no more to talk about.
Marcy?
Well, before I forget, the Metro Watershed has an online meeting on Tuesday, the
17th, I think.
or the 15th, Tuesday night?
15th.
Yes. And then I did attend the Minnesota Watershed meeting in Roseau. Fascinating. As we all note, Minnesota is very diverse, so driving up there, you go through lakes, you go through the woods, you get into the peat area, etc. And I guess one example of how we come to an issue with our own framework, we were looking at a prairie area, and someone asked, do you burn off the prairie? And the locals were going, no, we don't burn, because that peat catches fire, it would just go forever. So, you know, we take our concept of what you're supposed to do here, or what you do in your own area, and apply it to another place, could be disastrous. So I do have some very interesting fact sheets that I think I'm going to give to you, Teresa, and pass on to Kendra, because it's a nice quick look at what the projects are and available to folks. So I attended the administrators meeting as well as the managers and the tour. So it was very informative. Thank you.
Manager Robertson.
I really don't have anything other than just a reminder that July 23rd, I will not be present for that meeting, just as a reminder. So
Thank you for that.
yes, you're most welcome.
So the only thing is, not to counter anything John said, but just to remind us all that if you want to know what our responsibilities are, you go to two places. Well, number one is the statute, which lists our authorities. And our authorities are, of course, much broader than just drainage. And you go to our plan. And our plan reflects our statutory obligations, which are much broader than just drainage. And I think we have an excellent balance in our programs, and we should maintain that excellent balance as we go forward. With that, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nice meeting, people. Thank you.